Hello, welcome or welcome back to the Yarn and Yarns YouTube channel. My name is Angela and all the places you can find me should be linked in the description box below this video. Here on the channel you'll find me chatting about my adventures in knitting, spinning, crochet and weaving, all of the fibre related things. Today's video is a knitting video. I'm going to be sharing with you some progress that I've made on some of my projects in the last few months, and also sharing a couple of finished objects with you too. It's been a while since I've done a making roundup video. I've been working on lots of different things. I haven't necessarily finished lots of different things, but I've been working on lots of different things. As a consequence, I've got quite a lot of things to update you with. So I've decided to split this video, and this is going to be just knitting. And I'm going to do another video, probably in a couple of weeks' time, chatting about my spinning adventures. If you are a spinner, you may already know that July was Tour de Fleece month, and as I'm recording this it's the second weekend in August and we're about to go into the Tour de Fleece Femmes, so the women's cycle race, which is another week of spinning community fun. I've decided to wait until I've finished spinning this coming week and then I'll do a spinning roundup in another video. That also will hopefully help to keep these videos a little bit shorter as well. It is August as I'm recording this, and the last roundup video I did I think covered March and April. So there's been quite a few months in between. It's just been very busy family time, and if you're a regular to the channel you'll know that for most months I put up some making plans videos, share with you some of the projects that I'm hoping to concentrate on. Now I have to admit I've been a bit hit and miss with that because of the busy family situation that we've had going on, and some of my projects have seen more love than others. I won't be sharing everything that I've worked on in the last 3 months with you today, but I'm going to share some of the main things with you. I'm going to start with some works in progress and chat about our community picks. So for my monthly making plans I always get one person from our lovely Yarn and Yarns community to pick a project for me to work on. So I thought I would share my progress on those monthly projects with you. Now I'm slightly ashamed to say that for the first time ever I failed to work on something that was a community pick, but I have a plan to catch up. So back in May, I think it was, our wonderful Elaine, hi Elaine if you're watching, asked me to work on a pair of hand spun socks. There's a couple of videos up on the channel chatting about my sock project because these were a spin to knit project, and it was a make along hosted by the lovely Carrie of My Wool Mitten. I believe she's hosted this make along for several years now, usually around the beginning of the year. And last year I spun up my yarn for my socks and then didn't cast on, and Elaine suggested that I might start my project back in May. And as you can see, the yarn is still pulled up in my project bag. I did not start, so I want to send some apologies to Elaine for not being able to start that project, but I do, as I mentioned, have some plans to catch up. So we're in August now, and because of my really busy July I didn't have time to make an August making plans video, so I don't have any particular focus projects for August. So my plan is to try and work on a couple of small things that are almost finished, and I'm also going to concentrate on a few of the projects that have been on my making plans lists for the last few months that really didn't get the time they deserved. So that includes this pair of socks. So hopefully August will see these cast on and I will get to work on them a bit. So yeah, once again I'm so sorry Elaine, just life has just been so busy at the moment. I haven't been able to put as much time and energy into my crafting as I usually do. I have a similar story for the project that was picked by the lovely Pip. Hi Pip if you're watching, for July. Pip asked me to work on the caribou sweater, and in July I think I was only home for about 10 days of the month, and I did pick up the caribou and I think I've added like 2 or 3 rounds to it. It's a lovely colourwork jumper. Again, I wasn't really able to dedicate the time that I would have liked to for that project, so I'm going to also add that to my August list of things to work on, and my goal for that is to try and finish the top colourwork. It's a top down sweater and there's a lovely sort of colourwork panel of some deer heads across the sort of top of the sweater. So my plan is to try and finish off that top bit of colourwork during August, and then hopefully I will share with you that project in my next sort of making wrap up video. Yeah, I'm not going to share that with you today, even though I did add a few rows to it, but that will come in the next roundup video for sure, hopefully. Sounding confident, but you know me by now. If you've been here for a while, you know I always have these grand plans and not always the time to implement everything that I want to do, but I shall try my very best. I'm really hopeful that August is going to be a slightly calmer month and I get to get back to crafting at my usual pace, let's say. I usually have quite a bit of time in my evenings to spend pursuing my lovely fibre yarny hobbies, and the last few months have been taken over by a lot of family stuff, and yeah, hoping this month, touch wood, will be a lot calmer. We should be home for most of the month. There's the one weekend we'll be away, but other than that we've got no plans. Now I'm very pleased to say that after however many minutes of chatting with you, I finally actually have something to share with you because I have more of a successful story for the project that was picked for me by the lovely Victoria in June. And Victoria asked me to work on my Raya sweater, which is a pattern that was published in the very last Pom Pom magazine, which I think was either at the end of last year or the beginning of this year, sort of December, January time, I think, if my memory serves me. I don't have the copy of the magazine issue up with me, I've left it downstairs. Victoria asked me to work on the Raya, and also the Raya happened to be last month's YouTube pick as well from my making plans. So I've been able to make a reasonable amount of progress on this, and I'm almost finished the front. So it's a really interesting construction. You knit it's a cropped sweater, knit from side to side, and I've nearly finished the front panel. It's an oversized sweater with so you get the sort of drop sleeve effect, and I'm knitting mine from a combination of my hand spun, which are all these sort of colours, the blues and the sort of pinky colours that you see, and I'm also pairing that with some Yarn Collective, I think it is, Fleurville 4-ply, which is 100% merino yarn, which is this kind of like beigey brown colour. It's a really interesting colour, this. It's got hints of grey and also some sort of pinky undertones to it as well. When I picked this back up, I think I was somewhere in the region of sort of this area. I hadn't done too much, but as you can see, I've knit a lot on this. It's a very wide sweater. So I have finished the neck shaping here. Obviously I've finished the one side, and I'm really close to finishing the second side as well. I've got a few more decreases to go, and then I should be back to knitting the sleeve cuff. So yeah, much more successful progress on my Raya sweater. And of course it has one of the fun details that drew me to this project in the first place, is beautiful fringe detail at the bottom. The fringe does make it a slightly slower knit, because every sort of 4 rows I'm stopping and cutting my yarn to create the sort of fringing effect. Given that it's not just backwards and forwards, you do have to kind of stop and start a little bit. I'm really pleased with the progress that I've made on this in the last couple of months, and I'm also going to be carrying on with this in August as well. I'd like to get at least the front piece of this finished. I'm really loving working with these yarns. Most of the hand spun colours were yarns that I spun from a fibre swap I did with my friend Lisa. Hi Lisa, if you're watching. Last December and the December before, we've done a fibre advent sort of swap with each other, and I picked out lots of the blues colours. There were lots of blues in this year's fibre swap, and so that's what inspired me to pick out the blues for this project. Thank you so much to everyone who voted for Raya last month, and also thank you to Victoria for picking this project for me back in June. I'm really happy with the progress that I've been making on this one. I have one more work in progress to share with you before I move on to a couple of finished objects. Now this was also a YouTube pick back in May, I think. Hopefully I'm getting these months correct. May, June, July, yeah, pretty sure back in May the YouTube pick prompt came up in my dice rolls, and I again asked the community to pick a project for me, and I asked you to choose between 2 sweater projects, and the one that you picked was the Heritage Harbour, which is a pattern by Samantha Guerin, I think. I could be remembering this wrong. Bad YouTuber, not getting all the details right. My projects will be linked below, but please be aware that they will take you through to Ravelry project pages. So if you're not a Ravelry user, just be a little bit mindful of that. But I will list the project names at least below, so you can go off and do some searching off Ravelry if you want to find these patterns. A lovely oversized sort of sweater project again, and I have actually, this is not on the needles technically at the moment because I've finished the body. I have cast off. That's what I managed to do back in May. I can't remember how much progress I'd made. I might have started knitting in the round. So this again was another interesting construction where you sort of cast on. I think you knit the top of the back, then you come back and knit the top of the front, and then you join under the arms and then knit in the round. And I'm using some Rowan Soft Yak yarn for this. I've got this lovely orange colour as my main colour, and then I've got two different shades of sort of pinky purpley colours for my stripes. There's a subtle difference between the two colours, but it is there. I think it sort of shows up a little bit more in some lights than others. But yeah, it's got some lovely texture on the orange panels, on the orange stripes in this pattern. So yeah, body is off the needles. So sleeves and the neckline to do, and then this one will be finished. So still a fair amount of knitting. I always feel like sleeves take me longer than I expect them to, but I hope that next time I get to pick this up I can, you know, really push on and hopefully get very close to finishing this one. So yes, thank you for picking that for me back in May. Time to share a few little finished objects with you. I do have a few more finished objects that I'm not going to share today. I've been knitting a lot of socks using up scraps, bits and pieces, leftovers from previous projects for our current make along, which is the Yarn and Yarns Scrap Mal. There's a separate video about that if you're new to the channel and you want to find out more. We're knitting with our leftovers until the end of the year, and my plan is to share a few of the projects that have been made by our lovely community members in that video as well. So I'm not going to share my socks today, but I do have 3 other little finished objects to share with you that I have made in the last few months. So the first one was an amazing gift from one of my dear friends, Angela, and Angie sent me some yarn and also a pattern for one of the Sarah Shearer mystery gnomes. Again, if you follow the channel for a while, you know I love knitting these little gnomes, and so yeah, Ange very, very kindly gifted me some beautiful yarn. It was a kit that was especially made for this gnome, and I think the pattern is called Gnome News is Good News, and the yarn was dyed by Woolens and Nosh, which is a fabulous US dyer that obviously here in the UK I haven't had an opportunity to work with their yarns before, but I've heard lots about them on various YouTube channels that I watch. And here is my finished little gnome. Isn't that adorable? This yarn, this self-striping yarn, is just absolutely glorious. The colours are just so beautiful. So yeah, I used the kit to make this gnome. The only little change that I made was on the end of the hat here. I think, if I remember rightly, the suggestion was to make a little pom-pom or something, maybe? I can't quite remember now. But I had this stitch marker that I believe was a lovely gift from my wonderful friend Caroline of Colourful Creativity, and I decided that I really liked the colours. It's got it's like a little confetti ball, and it's got these little orange sort of confetti stars in there, and I thought that would just look super cute hanging off the end of the hat. So yeah, that's what I did. I finished off the hat with that stitch marker. So I took off the claw clasp and I've just stitched that in to finish off the hat. But yeah, I had so much fun with this little gnome. That self-striping is just so cute, isn't it? And this was definitely a different construction. A lot of the gnomes are sort of based on the same kind of shaping, but as you can probably tell from the way the self-striping works, you're kind of like knitting in short rows around to get this shape. So yeah, and the hat's got this beautiful curve to it as well. So yeah, I had loads of fun knitting that. So thank you so much to Ange for gifting me both the pattern and the yarn, and this brought me a lot of joy in what has been a really hard few months. with all of the things that we've got going on. So yeah, it was such a lovely project, and it brings a smile to my face, as you can probably tell every time I look at this little gnome. For my second project that I'm going to share with you, the pattern was also another kind gift by my lovely friend Joel. And Joel sent me the emotional support chicken pattern, and you've probably seen, I'm sure, lots of these popping up. Particularly a few months ago, they were everywhere. Everyone was knitting an emotional support chicken, and Joel sent me the pattern and I just had to cast on straight away. I used some bits and pieces of hand spun, and this is my finished chicken. Again, as you can tell, just a real joyful project. I loved knitting this, and it's so like squishy and lovely. I can absolutely see why people have knit multiple of these. Yeah, just a really fun knit. Most of my yarn that I used was actually left over from my Weekender sweater project, which was the first hand spun, was it? I think it was the first hand spun sweater that I managed to finish. Yeah, I had a few bits left over from that. I did a combo spin, so I picked a whole bunch of different fibres and braids from my stash and spun them up for that sweater, and I had a couple of little skeins left over, so that's the sort of main yarn that I used for this, and then I paired it with some other sort of hand spun for the stripes, and then a few little hand spun scraps for the beak and the comb and the wattle. So yeah, again, just another joyful project. A bit difficult to share this with you with my orange my orange background, but I believe I've shared a couple of photos over on Instagram, and there'll be one on my Ravelry project page as well. So yeah. Last but not least, for my finished objects, so this was actually another community pick project. So back in June, I've already mentioned, Victoria picked the Raya sweater for me. She gave me a choice of a few different projects, and in the end I chose 2. Now, I don't always do that because often people will give me a choice of things to work on, but this time I really fancied working on 2 of the projects that were picked. So I knit another scrap bucket, which again is part of my making for the scrap knit along. So I might share this one again when I make that video. But the Scrub Bucket is a beautiful pattern for a knitted bag by Tracy of the Passionate Spinner podcast. It's a what is essentially a double-sided bag. So you use fingering weight or 4-ply yarn held double, and you knit the inner and the outer, and then some I-cord to finish it off. And it's completely reversible, so you can pick whichever side you like best. You can almost 2 project bags in one. And as you can see, I used a lot of blue scraps to make my scrap bucket this time. This is the second one that I've made. After I finished my first one, which was mostly orange scraps, I think I said then I could see myself making a whole rainbow shelf of these bags. Orange and blue now. So yes, I'm heading down the rainbow scrap bucket rabbit hole, although it might be a little while before I make my next one. But yeah, they're such a fun little project, and I use my orange one of these all the time, so no doubt I shall be using this blue one a lot as well now I've shared it with you. Before I move on to a little acquisition segment, before I wrap up this video, I've got one other project to share with you, and it's a super kind gift. So it's a finished pair of socks, but I did not knit these were gifted to me by our amazing community member Elaine. I've already mentioned Elaine because she picked one of my projects for my monthly making, but Elaine just completely surprised me and sent me these absolutely beautiful socks in the post all the way from the USA. So I appreciate these so much, and I know how much work goes into a humble pair of knitted socks. So yeah, look at them. They've got these beautiful granny square at the top, and then this fabulous self-striping yarn. So I do have another sock. I do have a couple of ends to weave in on this second sock, but I haven't got around to doing that. I didn't want to wear them, and I figured if I didn't weave the ends in, I wouldn't be tempted to wear them before I show them off. You are definitely used to me airing my dirty socks on this channel if you've followed for a while, but yeah, as I didn't make these ones, I didn't want to do that. So fabulous. And then Elaine also sent me the spare yarn in case I needed to make any adjustments, but it just so happens that these fit perfectly. I love them, and I cannot wait to wear them now that I've shown them off. They're just so me colour wise, and I love that little detail at the top. I'm not sure what the pattern is. I think I've got a recollection that I saw a few pairs of these pop up on Instagram a couple of months ago, so I'm sure the pattern will be fairly easy to find. And if anyone knows what the pattern's called, then please do let me know in the comments below, and then we can highlight that so that other people can find these if they want to make a pair themselves. Thank you so much, Elaine, and also of course to Ange for the gnome kit, and to Joel for the pattern for the emotional support chicken. I'm probably forgetting other people as well, so I probably shouldn't say thank yous like that because I'm bound to miss someone. But yeah, I have been feeling the love, and it's just gonna mention again, it's been a tough few months, and just receiving these gifts has just really brought a little bit of joy and some smiles and helped me through some difficult times. So thank you everyone, and the same goes to everyone out there watching. Thanks to you all for being here and supporting me by watching the channel and following along with my crazy crafting adventures. Before I wrap this video up, I'm going to share with you a few purchases, a few new yarn goodies that have come to live with me in the last couple of months. One of the upsides of doing a lot of travelling to and from various parts of the country for family support is that it has given me the opportunity to visit a few yarn festivals along the way. So usually I visit one show a year if I'm lucky, and that's Wonderwall that's held here in Wales. But this year I already went back in March. I went to the East Anglia Yarn Festival over in Norwich while I was visiting my dad who lives over there. And then in July I visited not one but two shows. So the first, on my way back from a stint helping James's parents, they live up in Yorkshire. The halfway point between where I live and where they live is Birmingham, and Yarningham happened to be going on as I was travelling back from Yorkshire, and I got to spend a few hours with some of my dearest friends and shop for yarn and fibre. So I did buy yarn and fibre, but again I think I'm going to leave the fibre to share with you when I do my spinning wrap up. So I'm just going to share yarn with you today. Now I bought one souvenir skein from Yarningham. I was pretty good. There were quite a few things that were really tempting, but in the end I bought a skein from Fly Dyed, and I am totally blaming my friend Jeanette and also the lovely Martin, Welsh tenor from Knit 365, who was at the show. He was there helping out Ellie from Tith and Bren. We were hanging out talking in the conservatory room in the centre where the show was being held. Fly Dyed had a stand there, and this skein was just sat there staring at me and I was umming and ahhing, should I, shouldn't I hadn't bought any yarn, but yeah, I got encouraged by Jeanette and by Martin to purchase this. Martin suggested maybe this could inspire an orange make along, like a pumpkin autumn kind of inspired make along for this sort of September, October time. So maybe it will. I'll have to ruminate on that a little bit. This is the pumpkin colourway, and it's a beautiful skein of superwash merino, bamboo and silk. It's a 4-ply. I have no idea what I'm going to do with this yet. It just needed to come live with me. So this was my yarn souvenir from Yarningham. Gorgeous, isn't it? And then 2 weekends ago I was up looking after my gran. My gran lives in Hertfordshire where I grew up, and she is in her 90s. She has dementia and she's cared for by my uncle. My uncle and my nan have always lived together. My uncle never moved out. So my uncle is my nan's main carer, but he hasn't had a break for a good few years. So he wanted to go on holiday and I offered to go and stay with my gran to look after her while he was away. About a week before I went, I discovered that the Summer Wool Festival was going on just over the border in Bedfordshire, about half an hour, if that, drive away from my gran. I wasn't sure if I would be able to make it because my gran has good days and bad days. Sometimes she needs more care than others. So I had to wait till the day to decide whether I could go, and in the end I snuck out for a few hours and went to the Summer Wool Festival. Made a couple of sneaky purchases. Again, more fibre than yarn, so I'll share those on another day, but I do have 3 yarn purchases to share with you. The first one is hardly an enhancement to my stash at all. Look at these. I got these 2 super cute micro mini skeins from all wool that ends wool. These are 2 little skeins of 3.25 grams. That's very specific. It's got a bit of sparkle. It's rainbow self-striping. I'm throwing them away. I thought, given that I'm knitting a lot of socks with leftovers and bits and pieces, I might knit myself a pair of summer short socks with some leftover sort of solid colour yarn and then put a stripe of these in. So that's my plan for these little micro minis. Before I left the festival, I thought that was going to be my only yarn purchase. Just before I left the festival, I stumbled across a store that had a sale bucket with some of these zebra yarns in. Now, I'm afraid I don't know who the seller was. We're trying to work it out, but couldn't quite figure it out. But I came home with these 2. So one in these beautiful orange colours and one in this sort of neon rainbow. And I was umming and ahhing about which should come home with me, and I couldn't decide, so I brought both home. I've worked with this type of yarn before. I wove a scarf from some beautiful yarn that was dyed on this kind of zebra base. It was gifted to me by the lovely Andy and Angela from Attic Spin Dye. So although I can't share with you who the dyer was from this, I've tried to work it out and I just can't quite wrap my head around where I was when I picked this up from a sale bucket. If you're interested in similar yarns, I'm fairly sure that Attic Spin Dye still have some on their website if you're interested. But yeah, I wove a scarf from the skein that Andy and Angela sent me, and I just love how it turned out. This is superwash merino nylon, so I'm probably going to maybe make some socks from these. Just couldn't resist. They were in the sale bucket, so you know. That brings me back to one of my wrap-up videos, probably the first one I did this year. I said I was going to try and use more stash than I bought in new yarn, if that makes sense. So I've been keeping a little tally of how I'm going on with that. And I have to say, because I haven't finished a lot of my projects this year, I've been working on a lot. I've been working on quite a few of the bigger projects, so I've made lots of progress, but I'm not counting yarn out until a project is actually finished. So with the fact that I've been to East Anglia, Summer Wool Festival, Wonderwool and Yarningham, my stash has been enhanced. I'm afraid I'm in the plus. So I've actually at this point added 575 grams to my stash of yarn, which, given we're well over halfway through the year, is not where I'd hoped to be, but I'm going to finish it out strong. The second half we're going to finish some stuff and try and end on a negative balance by the end of the year. We'll see. Okay, on that not so positive note, I mean, when can enhancing stash be anything other than positive, really? It's a win-win, isn't it? I'd also like to say a big thank you to anyone who has seen me at any of the yarn festivals this year and come over and said hello. It always boggles my mind when people wander up to me and say, hey, I watch you on YouTube, or hey, I follow your Instagram. It's, yeah, a bit of a surreal moment for me. So I love meeting you all. So yeah, if you did come over and say hello to me at any of the yarn festivals that I've been to this summer, I appreciate you. And if you ever see me at any event or even just wandering down the street, please do come over and say hello. I love meeting you all. I love saying hello. You folks are the reason that I continue to record and make these videos, as well as the making. It's all of the interactions that I have, whether it be online or in person with you, that inspires me to keep going. So thank you so much. So I'm going to wrap things up for this video. Thank you so much for being here, and thanks for being patient with me. I haven't been around so much here or over on my Patreon page. I do have a Patreon for anyone who might be interested in supporting the content that I make, where I usually share more extra content. But yeah, it's been July was a month. But I'm hoping that we'll get back to more regular posting from here, and hopefully back to the regular sort of monthly making plans and monthly wrap-ups from September. Fingers crossed. Who knows what life has in store. But let me know in the comments below what you've been making in the last few months, what you've finished, what you've made great progress on. Have you been to any summer yarn festivals? I'd love to hear what you've been up to. So share all of those things in the comments below, and I will be back again soon with some more making content. So I hope you will join me for the next video. Until we do get to spend time together again, I hope you get to do some other things that you enjoy. Great big woolly hugs to you all. Bye for now. Bye.